had consumed a drink that had been laced with LSD by his supervisor. 9 days later, he was dead after falling 13 floors from the Hotel Statler. After his death, President Gerald Ford apologized to his family. They were given a wrongful death settlement. However, some suggest that beyond this and its other known casualty, the program had additional far-reaching effects. Some claim MKUltra's experiments are related to JFK's assassination through the actions of Charles Manson. However, there's no concrete proof of either. As shocking as MKUltra was, further paperwork has revealed yet additional drug-related and government-supported experiments. For example, LSD was also used in the CIA's Operation Midnight Climax from 1953 to 1964. This program was carried out by an Army captain and CIA operative known as George Hunter White and targeted the residents of New York and San Francisco. White took CIA safe houses and used them to create makeshift brothels with suggestive decorations and where prostitutes were given cash to engage in sexual activities. These actions were observed behind two-way mirrors after LSD or other drugs were added to clueless men's drinks. A memo found from related documents has made some question whether the real purpose of Operation Midnight Climax wasn't to observe the drugged men, but rather to see if they'd be effective as government spies. By having sex with the enemy, it was thought that they could get information that could prove useful to the government. Indeed, the CIA worked to determine when, during the process of seducing a man, that a woman can ask questions to get critical intel. The answer was directly after sex, not before. LSD experimentation of all kinds ground to a halt in 1963. The Inspector General deemed that the agency needed to follow different research ethics and discontinue all experiments on unsuspecting citizens. Congressional hearings followed. However, CIA agents claimed they couldn't remember a lot of details, and because many files had been destroyed, little could be done in the area of accountability. Given the documents we do have that detail these shocking government-initiated events, missing pages make us wonder just how much and what exactly remains unknown still. It's pure luck that some documentation of MKUltra was mistakenly left behind, while the rest was destroyed. However, the CIA could have avoided the resulting outrage or bewilderment by simply having used better logic and judgment, and never having done most of these operations to begin with. Psychic experimentation in drugs and citizens are clearly not the greatest ideas, and who in their right mind would try to train cats? From UFO encounters to assassination attempts, the CIA keeps some seriously classified secrets from the public, yet hackers are always trying to find it. But the CIA is not the only one at risk for hacking. You are much more likely to be their actual target. No need to worry though, because Dashlink's the one and only tool you need to not just keep your personal info and digital accounts safe and secure, but their dark web monitoring services will immediately notify you if it finds any of your personal information for sale on an online marketplace, so you can take steps to protect yourself right away. Don't be like millions of victims every day. Get Dashlink and keep your digital life secure right now. Head on over to www.dashlane.com/infographics for a free 30-day trial. And if you use the coupon code infographics, you can get 10% off a premium subscription today. Which of these were the most mind-blowing? Let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other video called FBI versus CIA. How do they compare? Thanks for watching.
All investigate the whole of the Vigilance Standard is an order founded after the Griffin crisis. The main hall is situated in the pale south of the star. I should see if they have anything for the investigating.
You may not know the ins and outs of these two American agencies, but there is little doubt you haven't spent a significant amount of time enthralled by their actions, whether that is through the news media, documentary film, or regular old Hollywood film. Both are, to some extent, shrouded in mystery. Both can be blamed for duplicity at times, bearing the scars of numerous scandals, and they are still currently the target of conspiracy theories. Whatever your views, this duo are both catalysts of excitement, intrigue, and outrage. While we can't promise you the ultimate secret workings of the agency, we can provide you with a
Should be able to loot these.
This episode of the Infographic Show, FBI versus CIA. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell button so that you can We will start with an abridged history of both agencies. The FBI, or the Federal Bureau of Investigation, was the brainchild of Attorney General Charles Bonaparte. In 1908, he and President Theodore Roosevelt agreed that the Justice Department needed a corps of special agents. At the time, it had no name, and it said that the two men were not sure how to recruit agents. According to the FBI website, Bonaparte jokingly told the president they should have men As you all know, this meant investigating monsters and filthy on Twitch today.
That's great, sort of the blaze.
The controversial time-busting icon known as J. Edgar Hoover was resurrected. Monsters weren't Hoover's only
Haggling you.
The FBI's historical cases are, of course, too many in number to list, but some famous investigations include the stick-up robbing sweetheart /spies, the white-collar crimes of the company Enron, the JFK assassination, the murder of 3 civil rights workers in Mississippi, Watergate, and, of course, 9/11. The FBI currently has headquarters in Washington, D.C., and there are 56 field offices in major U.S. cities, as well as more than 350 smaller offices around the country. It also has about 60 offices in other countries. It employs about 35,000 people in all, which, as well as special agents, include scientists, intelligence analysts, language specialists, and those with considerable IT. Contrary to popular belief, the FBI does not just shoo the police aside during big investigations because it has no rights. State and local officers work with the FBI. The Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA, was an intelligence agency focused on
shit.
domestic crime, so this
That's dope.
knowing what dangers or political upheavals are happening around the world.
Okay, so
And more recently, cyber intelligence. It was created on July 26, 1947,
Yep.
when Harry S. Truman signed off on the national security. One of the main impetuses to create such an agency was the attack on
adept apprentice, I'll drop that.
again, too many to recount, but those include the 1953 Iranian coup d'etat, attempting to enact a military coup
And what boots am I wearing?
all kinds of pro-communist movements around the world, the Vietnam War, and controversially arming rebel forces when the U.S. entered the Sudan. The CIA is an intelligence agency, but one that uses its brains and brawn to manipulate countries, governments,
Oh, okay.
outside of governments.
So I'm only wearing one boot, I'm not wearing
The
two.
CIA is not something the agency
Wait, where's the sneak one? I swear I had sneak boots.
It's a very secret organization, but it does release millions of pages of its content, much of that being historical, what we might call answers. Unlike the FBI, the CIA website states that it never monitors U.S. citizens, although it also states it will if there is reason to believe that an individual is involved in espionage or international terrorist activities. Many of its workers are in Washington, D.C., and its
Skyrim Alta.
but agents are also stationed, often working undercover all around the world. Do these two agencies work together?
Yeah, okay, let's go Skyrim Alta.
And people have written books that delineate a war between agencies. The CIA's website states that the relationship is strong, and threats to national security are also shared. That information might relate to drug trafficking, money laundering, organized crime, and terrorism. Nonetheless, after 9/11, a congressional report stated that because intelligence was not shared responsibly, a possible counteraction did not happen. The New York Times wrote, they failed to counter the threat from Al-Qaeda, even though they had known for years that its leader, Osama bin Laden, was returning to the United States. So, yes and no, they work together. CIA is focused on collecting intelligence and cannot take the rest. On the other hand, the FBI is technically
Alright, his magic is fire. Alright. We'll find Magica. This magic. Twilight armor. Okay. 4, 5. Okay, 4, 5 magic. I stunned there. Magica, fortify Magica. Oh, hold on. Resist magic. Resist. Reactor.
Right now, there are about 20,000 service times for 39 and 1974. A guy named Joel Campbell was sitting himself in forcibly landed in prison. The guard stopped him and carried him to
It has blood on it, but no, it doesn't. That's really cool. Where the fuck is he? Alright, let's see. Operation. I need to get Ebony left. Okay then. Resist magic, yeah. Resist. Fire. Okay. Regenerate mana, regenerate health. Oh, okay, no. Oh, good shit.
Let's make it.
Escaped from Melbourne's high-security Texas prison by helicopter. That plan didn't exactly work out for him. He just can't hold the bad man down. And years later, McMillan would find himself locked up in Tyler's notorious on-premise central prison. Things were looking bad for the smuggler, and he knew he had to get out. But how do you do that? One person ever escaped. Very small. He became the first man ever to escape that prison.
Another dragon soul.
I can harm them.
Well, it could be something like 8 or even 100. The only way to get more people in that cell would be if you started plowing funds on top of each other. 20 people in the 1800s, a British man was sent to Australia on a transport ship to serve time on the field. They read up the name of Moondown Joe. He turned to crime again, committing robberies and then hiding out in the bush. And from that, the authorities hated him. His luck ran out when he was caught. This time, the authorities made sure he wasn't going to proceed. He had to serve a sentence and had his pair of 20 guys. But Moondown Joe still
Wow. Damn.
Basically a concrete bomb. So how could Joe get out of that? The local governor even said, if you get out again, I'll forgive you. Guess what? He got out. Joe made a hole in one of the walls and off he went into the sunset. After that, he tried not to commit any more crimes, but after a few years, he started robbing again. He was captured again, of course, but the governor was true to his word and had Joe removed from prison. 22.
Oh shit! That's fucking sick.
But that's when a Japanese man named Yoshi Shiratori steps up and says, hold my beer. Shiratori is famous for 4 successful Christmas escapes. 21. Back in 1960, one guy whose name you saw a lot was Tennessee Leary. And that's because he was kind of a guru in the hippie counterculture. Leary believed that psychedelic drugs held power that could help mankind. And he got his chance to take part in something called the Concord Prison Experiment. This involved Leary giving one of the prisoners to the sign, a.k.a.
Lost!
And the answer was that 20% of the guys who took part in the project went back to crime after prison, while 60% of the other American criminals at the time did the same. 20. When you're doing time in Iceland's Kaviabraya prison, you can enjoy rooms with exceptional views and even get out now and again, do some shopping in the market.
Labyrinthian. Oh, I'm going a complete wrong way.
You might also be surprised to hear that it's a diverse kind of joint, with women, men, the old and the young all mixed together and helping each other do their time. 19. In the USA, around 75% of prisoners will end up back in prison within 5 years after their release. 18. In Norway, only around 20% of released criminals will end up back in prison. 17. Not so many people know this, but Senator John McCain actually did time behind bars. The senator was flying a plane in the Vietnam War, and that plane was shot down. He ejected out of the thing, but doing so, he broke both arms and a leg. McCain was captured and then sent to Porlow Prison, aka the Hanoi Hilton. He was beaten, and you can imagine how that felt. He already had a bad injury. He did eventually get the treatment, but after a few weeks, the poor guy had lost 50 pounds. If that wasn't bad enough, he later did a 2-year strike in solitary confinement. Could it possibly get any worse, I wonder? The answer is a resounding yes. Harry David, times that weekend during those sessions, he would Walking from room to room, you see numerous torture devices and photos of all the families that killed them. Another room is filled with their skulls. Settlers in prison, working prison, torture, women, children, and of course, they don't themselves being on the right side of politics. They were just your average student, teacher, doctor, engineer, soldier, sailor. We won't talk about the horrific devices they used to torture and ultimately killed him, but needless to say, imprisonment there was worse than you can imagine. Now researchers of the infographic show we can assure a visit is absolutely heartbreaking. 14. When Alcatraz was up running at the prison, there was a rumor that the water surrounding the outside. That's not exactly the truth, but it probably prevented humans from practicing it. A great white has been spotted there in the past, but that was very unusual. Certain kinds of sharks might swim in that water, but not the kinds that will munch down on man. We'll be close to the top 10 now, so expect to see something special. 13. Japanese prisons are well known for being really, really strict. An American man spent 10 days in solitary because he looked out for the that was a big move, of course. 12. What you're about to hear is possibly one of the most outrageous prison stories ever. An investigation revealed that some very clever inmates made two computers and hid them in the ceiling. The computer by itself wasn't very useful, but the guys connected the devices to the state's permanent rehabilitation and corrections network. The only reason those guys got caught was because the prison realized that daily internet usage was a common threshold. The good news is that those men and obviously learned a lot in their prison electronics. 11. What's called one of the 500 events in American history happened in 1980 at the In short, the prison was taken over by the prisoners, and guards and inmates were taken hostage. None of the guards were killed, but we can't say that for the captured inmates. What happened is some of the gangs that were leading the riot took over the prison. They rampaged through the cell blocks, but they couldn't get through a door that used the blowhole to get through. On the other side, there were guys who tortured, hanged, dismembered, and killed in other territories. We hate to tell you, but that blowhole that they had was used on the faces of the snitch. 33 people in the end were killed. 10. There was a special dungeon in the tower building called the Mage, and the thing was, when you got sent there, you got close. That's because it was so small, the person couldn't find it. It was a tiny little box in now, in every prison, there's a guy that makes food. Well, you know a lot of guys that do that. They make things called drink, juice, bread, and but we don't know one guy who himself but one guy got wrong when he didn't burn the bottle. That means letting us guess. Every prison has a guy that makes food. Well, there are a lot of guys that do that. They make the alcohol drink from juice, bread, and bits of fruit. But you throw in all kinds of things. We found one guy who considered himself a hooch master when he was doing that. But one thing he got wrong one time was when he didn't burn the bottom. That means letting us guess. He did it by that and things grew up and fixed. If you ever saw some hooch master that was suggest to get down and burn the wood? Hey, after a study that was conducted by a County Los Angeles jail, it was found that 800 people did 200 days in that jail before they were found innocent or guilty. 7. You might think that there's just no way you'd ever end up in jail, but listen to how some people got there. Okay, so not parking ticket can land you in jail, but it gets much worse than that. A few years ago, a 19-year-old man in Michigan did 3 days behind bars because he did not get fined for catching a fish. What? Well, we can tell you that he wasn't supposed to catch that kind of fish at that time of year. His crime was out-of-season fishing. We found an 82-year-old in Maryland who loved chihuahuas kept getting How do you know supposed to keep those little things under control? She got fined, couldn't pay, and went straight to jail. She served 2 days. So don't think that you could never end up in jail. 6. In 2011, death row inmates in Texas no longer had the option to have a last meal for their execution. But why? The answer is because a senator in the state got quite upset when one prisoner ordered a massive meal and then ate none of it. The guy ordered 2 chicken fried steaks, fried okra, about a pound of barbecue, 3 fajitas, a triple meat bacon cheeseburger, a meat lover's pizza, a cheese omelet with ground beef, tomatoes, onions, and bell and jalapeno peppers, and lastly, a pint of ice cream and a slab of peanut butter fudge with crushed peanuts. All of that came, and the prisoner said he no longer felt hungry. That was enough to make some officials angry, and last meals became a thing of the past. 5.
Wow, because of that dickhead.
Sealed Heaven was released from a U.S. prison, and it made the news. That's because she was the oldest female in the country before her release. The 93-year-old had served 5 years for shooting her neighbor. 4. In 1926, an Australian man named Bill Wallace shot a guy because that guy started smoking near Wallace. Smoking indoors was all the norm back then, but Bill didn't really like the smell. He went to prison and never came out again. But guess how old he was when he finally passed away within those years? The answer is 107 and 11 weeks. He did it for 53 years. 3. In
Wow.
2019 at a prison in Arkansas, the officers were a bit embarrassed when a prisoner just seemed to disappear. Where is the guy, they wondered. 1 minute, he was there, and the next, just gone. Just moving away, those red-faced officers took dogs into a nearby rural area, knowing the guy couldn't have come from. They found him in the end, but not outside of the prison. He was found hiding on the roof. 2. You won't be surprised to hear that life ain't easy for some folks on death row. Solitary confinement is just wait until it's time to lay down on that gurney and take that toxic potion into their veins. The waiting can cause something called death row syndrome, which basically means they go mad. One guy who said death row was like living in a submarine or a cave had his execution delayed because he was in no fit state to die. Others might start talking to themselves or even have psychotic delusions. You can sure get
No fit state to die.
Number 1.
I'm sure we can try
That 46,000 to 230,000 people in U.S. prisons are actually innocent. Since 1992, 20 people in the U.S. have been exonerated from death row because of DNA evidence. The records show that there have been 2,551 exonerations in America, and those guys in total did 22,540 years behind bars for something they didn't do. Now that might be the most insane fact we have for you. Are you hooked on facts? Do you want some more? If so, these shows will be a great education for you. Head on over to 50 Insane Fighter Jet Facts that will shock you, or 50 Insane Facts about the Vietnam War you didn't know. Nearby rural area, knowing the guy couldn't have gotten far. They found him in the end, but not outside of the prison. He was found hiding on the roof. 2. You won't be surprised to hear that life ain't easy for some folks on death row. They sit in solitary confinement and just wait until it's time to lay down on that gurney and take that toxic potion into their veins. The waiting can cause something called death row syndrome, which basically means they go mad. One guy who said death row was like living in a submarine or a cave had his execution delayed because he was in no fit state to die. Others might start talking to themselves or even have psychotic delusions. You can sure get low on death row. And number 1, it's a rough estimate, but it's thought that 46,000 to 230,000 people in U.S. prisons are actually innocent. Since 1992, 20 people in the U.S. have been exonerated from death row because of DNA evidence. The records show that there have been 2,551 exonerations in America, and those guys in total did 22,540 years behind bars for something they didn't do. Now that might be the most insane fact we've ever. Are you hooked on facts? If so, these shows will be a great education for you.
What?
Facts that will shock you, or 50 insane facts about the Vietnam War you didn't know.
Well, actually, I can give that weapon to Serrano, couldn't I? Depends what's there.
Barbecue, 3 fajitas, a triple meat bacon cheeseburger. There's only one thing we want to tell you in this introduction, and that's the fact that you really don't want to end up on death row. After hearing these 50 facts, we guarantee you that your mind will be blown. Number 50. Okay, some hard facts. Some might be wondering, what exactly is death row? Well, it's simply the name for the part of prison where inmates await their execution. For instance, if you get sentenced to death in California, you'll go to death row units at either Corcoran State Prison or San Quentin Prison. You're thinking, tell me something I don't know. Okay, how about the fact that California leads the U.S. in terms of how many people are on death row? The current number is 725 as of January 1st, 2020. Florida is next with 347 death row inmates, and Texas gets the bronze with 218 death row inmates. Number 49. We'll give you some more hard facts soon, but let's now add some insanity to this story. As you might guess, some death row inmates are not they might not have even been declared insane in the courts, but it's very likely they were very much certifiably mad. In 2004, a man named Andre Thomas killed his estranged wife and 2 children. He used a different knife for each killing, later saying he didn't want to contaminate them with demons. He removed some of their organs and subsequently stabbed himself in the chest. He then left a voicemail message for his dead wife's parents. It went like this: I need y'all's help. Something bad is happening to me. It keeps happening and I don't know what's going on. I need some help. I think I'm in hell. I need help. He turned himself in and confessed to what he'd done. While he was in jail, he had removed one of his eyes, and later 3 doctors confirmed that this guy had schizophrenia. The state didn't care, and the man stood trial and was sentenced to death. While serving time on death row, he removed another eye and proceeded to eat it. He's still waiting for
Oh my fucking god.
That's a crazy story, and they will get even crazier. Number 48. So which
That's
states have executed the most
crazy.
death row inmates since 1976? The top 3 states are Oklahoma with 112, Virginia with 1 more at 113, and Texas far away at number 1 with 566 executions. Number 47. A lot of you don't know this, but it can take a really long time to get yourself executed, often between 15 and 20 years. The average time spent on death row before execution or release, yep, a lot of guys have been innocent on death row, is 16 years. Number 46. People literally go mad waiting to be killed by the state, and this madness is actually a phenomenon with a name. It's called death row phenomenon, and we're going to talk more about it later. For now, all you need to know is that it means basically losing your mind. Number 45. Okay, so you can spend a lot of time on death row. As you'll see, more inmates on death row have been innocent than you would believe. In fact, it's mind-blowing and sad just how many folks have gotten off of death row. One man spent 39 years there. His name was Gary Albert. He murdered 3 people and was sentenced in 1974, but like the guy we just talked about, he had a long history of severe mental illnesses, including schizophrenia. The state knew very well he was totally insane, and that's why he could never be executed. He waited 39 years.
So if you do it in your sound mind, you can die. But if you do it and you're insane, you can live.
Okay,
That's
so
kind of
one more person that spent
fucked.
a long time on death row was a guy named Jack Alderman, and he spent 33 years fighting for his freedom. He was accused of killing his wife, although there was no forensic evidence and the story is just plain weird. He was sentenced only on the testimony of another man, a man who might have actually been the killer. The execution of Alderman has been called a gross miscarriage of justice because it is highly unlikely he killed his wife. He was offered all kinds of deals, and he wouldn't have been executed if he only said he was guilty. He refused to do this every time he was offered a plea deal and said he just couldn't admit to doing something he hadn't done. He was executed in 2008. Number 4.
Wow, are you fucking serious?
Convicted of murder. You can end up on death row having been convicted of murder, but you might not have been sentenced for actually killing someone. Number 42. If that's confusing to you, here's a story. One night you're hanging out in the park. But this particular night, there are a couple of guys you don't know that well. All you guys get a bit drunk and then decide to go into town. Those 2 new guys get into a fight. They beat up some dude so bad he dies. You were merely there, and you didn't even throw a punch. Plus, you didn't know these guys very well. But if you're poor, have a crappy lawyer, and maybe a couple of minor crimes to your name, you might be charged with something called felony murder. If you're African American, you're even more screwed. Sadly, racial bias in the American justice system is still prevalent. Okay, the point is, you sometimes just have to be there. If you do your research, you'll find lists of people who were executed for just being there. It was the other guy that pulled the trigger or stuck in the blade, and you'll find names such as G.W. Green, Carlos Santana, Joseph Garcia, and many more. Number 41. One more thing you need to know is that you could get charged for murder if one of your kids died. Yes, if you've heard of the Elkhart 4, you'll know that 4 kids decided to burglarize a house, and the house owner shot and killed one of those kids. The 3 other kids were charged with felony murder, and we're looking at 55, 50, and 55 years behind bars.
Wow.
For something some guy did while protecting his house. They didn't end up spending any time on death row and eventually got much lower sentences, but it's a warning to you all. Number 40. A guy named Nick Yaris spent 22 years on death row for a crime he didn't commit. He educated himself there, and he was later released after DNA evidence proved that he did not commit the crime. Yaris sued the Delaware County District Attorney's Office, and the settlement was $3 million. You can see his story in the documentary film The Fear of 13. Number 39. What about lethal injection? What's that? It's a 3-shot cocktail. The first part is usually sodium thiopental, a super-strength barbiturate that basically knocks the person out. Then pancuronium bromide, a muscle relaxant, should make the lungs not work so well, and the third part is potassium chloride. Enough of this will affect the heart and should bring on cardiac arrest. We should also say that certain states have their own recipes. Number 38. Actually, lethal injection, while generally viewed as the most humane form of execution in modern times, is a really high botch rate at 7.1%. Yep, that's a lot of botching. And you could ask
That's
the
to keep it lucky.
less pain for some folks. Firing squads also had a 100% success rate. The botch rate of the electric chair is 1.9%, hanging 3.1%, and the gas chamber.
I received car seat. I received a car settee. I received your letter about the sudden disappearance of our patrols in the Pale. The news is troubling for sure. Wildpath Fenric was among them, and he was not only a vigil enforcer, but the finest warrior I knew. For him to be missing is no small thing, but perhaps fate has conspired for these events to happen, so that I may repay the life that I owe him. I may leave for Dawn Star in the morning and take a room at the inn. If I learn anything, you will be the first to know. Stundos must be upon you, as rain. So I need to go to Wind Peak Inn. Search for the Vigilant at the Wind Peak Inn. I need to go to the... Isn't there like a... There we go. I'm resuming the video.
5.4%. Number 37. You might now be thinking, wait a minute. In recent years, there have been bodies piling up all over the USA during what we call the opioid crisis. In 2018, there were 46,802 deaths related to opioids such as heroin and fentanyl, and the new tidal wave of prescription opioids. The numbers were similar in 2017 and 2019. So that's around 150,000 deaths.
So
which,
we
if you've ever seen one, pretty much means going to sleep and not waking up. Since 1999, there have been around 800,000 deaths in the USA because of drugs, and mainly the deaths were opiate-related. Although opiates might have been mixed with another drug such as benzodiazepine, there's a lethal threesome: the opioid, the benzo, and the booze. Anyway, some people have said, why not give people a strong drug like fentanyl when you want to execute them? It's obviously a formidable killer on the streets, so why not mainline murderers with it? Well, in 2018, Nebraska became the first state to use fentanyl as part of a lethal injection, and they even threw in a benzodiazepine. They knocked him out with the opioid, slowed him down with the relaxant, and for good measure, they threw in some of the heart-stopping potassium chloride. Number 36. Lethal injection often fails simply because the executioners can't find a vein. But in one occasion, they actually injected the substances into the flesh of a man and not his veins. 35 minutes later, he got another shot. That kind of time frame is what we now call cruel and unusual punishment. Others have just spasms with their bodies going into spasms and moans coming from their mouth. Still, the real horror stories involve the gas chamber and the electric chair, and that you'll learn about later. Number 35.
Right.
There might also be two separate cartridges during lethal injection. The second one is a backup. Number 34. A guy named Ramel Brew actually survived the execution in 2009. Over the period of 2 hours,
wonder if I can get the...
tried to find a vein. Ramel reportedly sobbing.
I think I killed all the guards there.
But it failed. They took him off the gurney, and the state was accused of cruel cruel and unusual punishment. Rommel is still on death row today. Number 33. Okay, so this was before modern death row, but when the British first settled into the colonies, they had a list of 222 crimes that were punishable by death. If you destroyed a fish pond, you could die. Or if you messed with a rabbit warren, you could be strung up. Painting your face black at night? Also a capital crime. Yeah, that's crazy, but we have more crazy down the line. Number 32. Serial killer Philip Carl Jablonski was on San Quentin death row for many years. He was an avid letter writer and had pen pals all over the world. He sometimes draw cartoons on the letters, but often they were quite disturbing. In fact, his letters could be pleasant at parts, and then suddenly he talked about really gruesome things he'd done. He actually killed his first wife, but married a female pen pal while doing time for that murder. When he got out, they could finally be together as a real married couple. He soon killed his wife and Jablonski would kill again, and he would get caught. Believe it or not, more women proposed to him when he was on death row. He recently died in a cell, so he's no longer in
No witnesses.
Number 31. In fact, a few people have gotten married while on death row. One of the worst serial killers of all time got married even though his hobby was brutally killing women. His name was Ted Bundy. Some women have a thing for killers. There's a term for it. It's called hybristophilia. Number 30. The death penalty was actually abolished for a while, but it came back in 1976. In the U.S., there are only 29 states in which you can be legally killed by the state. Number 29. Since 1976, there have been 1,512 executions in the U.S. Number 28. Only 15 of those executions were of women, and 22 of the executed people were juveniles. Number 27. Since the death penalty, there have been a total of 294 cases of clemency. This is when someone with power steps in and says this guy should not be killed. The president or the state governor could do this, but they will have to weigh up a lot of facts and also think about the public's reaction. This doesn't mean the person is released, or what we might call exonerated. It just means the person's death sentence has been commuted to another sentence. And yes, it sometimes happens like it does in the movies. That is, it can happen just hours before the execution is due to be carried out. In 2020, a guy named Jimmy Meters was given clemency just a few hours before he was about to get a lethal injection. His sentence was reduced to life without possibility of parole. Meters was accused of killing a store clerk, but he says another guy did it. He's even tried to get DNA evidence to support this, but that hasn't been possible yet. He claims he's innocent. He had no criminal history before the event and has had a spotless prison record, which was also in consideration to his granted clemency. We'll soon tell you shocking facts about innocent people on death row, but we think you need to hear other facts first. Number 26. One Republican governor shocked the world in the early 2000s. His name was George Ryan. He said in 2003, okay, enough's enough. Something stinks here, and he pardoned 3 death row prisoners. Yep, all 163 men and 4 women who'd already served collectively over 2,000 years were taken off of death row. Why would he do such a thing, you might be wondering? Okay, let's just give you his statement. It's best you hear it from him. The facts I've seen in reviewing each and every one of these cases raised questions not only about the innocence of people on death row, but about the fairness of the death penalty system as a whole. Our capital system is haunted by the demon of error. Error in determining guilt and error in determining who among the guilty deserves to die. A lot of people were upset, and not only die-hard fans of legalized killing, some of the families of the victims were annoyed and upset. The thing is, were they gunning for the right man to die? Mr. Ryan made his decision after seeing that his state had executed 12 people but had exonerated 13 innocent men who had been wrongly convicted. Number 25. If you actually look at pardons given all over the U.S., you'll see that they're not given that often. In fact, Illinois leads the way with 187 pardons, and in second place is Ohio with 21. The majority of states just have 1, 2, or 3 pardons. Number 24. Has a pardon ever happened like in the movies when the minute hand is on the screen and the prisoner gets saved at the very last minute? The answer is yes. It happened in 2020 to a guy named Thomas Bart Whitaker. Bart was only in his early 20s when he decided to kill his whole family and claim the inheritance money. The family was quite wealthy, we should say. The son got his roommate to kill his mother and brother, but his father survived being shot. It was the father years later who would protest the governor and get his son off of death row. And 1, 2, or 3 pardons. Number 24. Has a pardon ever happened like in the movies when the minute hand is on the screen and the prisoner gets saved at the very last minute? The answer is yes. It happened in 2018 to a guy named Thomas Bart Whitaker. Bart was only in his early 20s when he decided to kill his whole family and claim the inheritance money. The family was quite wealthy.
Wow.
The son got his roommate to kill his mother and brother, but his father survived being shot. It was the father, years later, who had protested the governor and get his son off of death row. The two had become good friends. The father said his son was the last of his family, so to kill him would be to leave him with no one. It seems the governor couldn't ignore that plea. Number 23. In the past,
Why the fuck would you kill your family for money, bruh? Like,
dead man walking. People on
really?
death row have said when someone goes, it's always a very depressing day. Number 22. Death row in some places has been criticized for its conditions.
Whoa.
In some places, so much so that the prison has been forced to close the wing down and build a new one. Death row inmates are usually locked down in solitary for 23 hours a day. They'll sit in that windowless cell for many years, and unlike other prisoners or murderers, they don't generally get to mix in with people in the yard or have prison jobs. This drives them absolutely crazy. The American Civil Liberties Union actually sued the state of Oklahoma and won. It said solitary confinement could only be described as being buried alive. It says the men get 3 showers a week and 5 times a week can leave their cell for an hour, but they never get to see the sun or the sky, since their exercise time is just in another concrete box, a bigger concrete box. But every prison is not the same, and we saw some prisons where death row inmates could work and communicate with other prisoners. We should say that in some cases this is after a roster. Number 21. These conditions can and have led to something called death row syndrome. This might mean men wanting to take their own lives, but even that's not easy in solitary confinement. Some men literally lose their minds. They become mentally ill on death row and might start having visual and auditory hallucinations. Some men just waiver their appeals and plead for the end to come sooner. 16 years on death row in these conditions can be hard. In fact, because of such brutal conditions, other countries such as the UK and Canada have refused to extradite people to the US. They say no human should be kept in those conditions since it breaches standards of human rights. It's not about the death penalty, but what comes before it. You've all lived in self-isolation at home for a while. Now imagine your house with one small cell and 4 permanent walls. Imagine no one can come to the cell when someone hands you food, or to bring you to another tenant room for an hour a day. Now imagine this went on for years, and at the end, you get to die. Do you think you get death row syndrome? Number 20. It seems not all
probably.
death rows are the same, though, because we found a recent story that told us at San Quentin one death row inmate killed another death row inmate while the two were out in the yard. This is actually very unusual, and San Quentin officials said it was the first time it had happened since 1996. Death row inmates are separated from the rest of the prison, but they do get to go out in the yard together. Death rows all over the U.S. don't usually see much violence. They are, for the most part, eerily quiet places. Number 19. Scientists in the U.S. and almost anywhere in the world say the death penalty does not deter killers. In fact, there are lower murder rates in the U.S. states that don't have the death penalty. There are some experts that think the death penalty does deter serious crimes, but they're in the minority. The split is around 90% that don't think it works and 10% that think it works. Number 18. The USA lies around 7th place in regard to most executions. China leads, although it doesn't report its executions. North Korea could also be a very high number, but again, the country won't report the numbers. Other expansive executions are Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Somalia. So the U.S. is in pretty bad company when it comes to human rights records. Number 17. The first prison escape from death row was in 1934, and the man who got away was the gangster Raymond Hamilton. The infamous Bonnie and Clyde helped him get out. The next death row escape wouldn't be until 1984, when the infamous Briley...
I'll resume this in a bit. I've got Voice of the Sky activated, so they shouldn't attack me.
To come in here alone, a fool like all the rest of them.
Oh, where is it? Awakening. I've met Isran, the leader of a group of vampire hunters known as the Dawn Guard. The vampires that attacked the whole of the Vigilance may have been after something in a place called Dimholler Crypt. Isran has asked me to find out what the vampires are looking for.
Well then, get on. It's off with them, actually.
Haha, those two deserve what they got. Their arrogance had become insufferable.
All this talk is making me thirsty. Perhaps another vigilant will wander in. I
have half a mind to return to the castle and tell Harkin what a fool he's entrusted this mission to.
I have half a mind to tell Local of your disloyalty.
You wouldn't dare. Now shut up and keep on watch.
Lost!
So, none of these beings want to fight me, because I'll put it in resume.
Did something even more over the top than a Hollywood movie. They basically took over the death row unit, stole the guards' uniforms, put on riot gear, put a TV on the stretcher, and walked it out of the prison while saying it was a bomb. They then drove off into the night laughing like hyenas while smoking their stash of weed. Number 16. A man named Martin Garul also escaped, and he basically scaled fences and ran for his life while the guards were shooting at him. He didn't get that far though, since his body was found in a river not long after. One of those shots had hit him in the back. The year was 1998. Number 15. Hangings used to be public events, and they were very popular with some people who treated them like a family day out. The father would read the newspaper and look up gleefully. Wow, honey, grab your jacket. There's a hanging on today. 1936 was the year of the last public hanging in the U.S., and up to 20,000 people turned up to the event in Kentucky. Did that criminal spend 20 years on death row?
I'll bet some of these artifacts would fetch a good price. I hope they're not cursed.
Enjoy sail biking thrills with hundreds of high-paying clubs and live
Vigilant Tolan.
Explore a vast open world consisting of 5 unique biomes. Everything you do has an impact on the world. In Albion's player-driven economy...
So they say, skip.
He committed the crime in June and was hanged in August. Things were a bit different back then. Number 14. The records show that death row and the death penalty is way more expensive for the taxpayer. One study in Maryland revealed that the average cost for each case was $3 million. Another study showed Louisiana spent $15.6 million per year on its capital punishment system. And another study in 2018 showed that in all states with the death penalty, the additional cost per year was almost $3 billion, compared to if death row criminals had just been given a life sentence without parole. That's why some people argue for the abolition of the death penalty, not because of moral concerns, but because it costs too much. Number 13. A Gallup poll in 2019 revealed that 60% of Americans supported life imprisonment without the possibility of parole over the death penalty. In 1986, it was just 34% of Americans that held the view. Number 12. There was once a woman named Kelly Gissendaner, and in 2015, when she became the last woman in the United States to be executed, for now at least, she was the only woman on death row in Georgia. Her crime was killing her husband, and she didn't deny doing it. On death row, she converted to Christianity and created the group Struggle Sisters as a way to help women get through their time. Gissendaner might have had more freedom than some people on death row. She sang the song Amazing Grace before she was given her cocktail of drugs. Number 11. That cocktail of drugs costs only around $100. The killing part is not the most expensive part. That is the imprisonment part and the mind-boggling legal costs. Number 10. Sometimes prisoners order rather strange meals for the meal they have before they get executed. But in terms of statistics, a cheeseburger and fries is the most popular meal. Number 9. In 2012, when a man named Gary Simmons was asked for his last meal, he might have been trying to die by way of heart attack. That's because his last meal contained 29,000 calories. We're not going to mention all the items because they're just too many. Let's just say it included a lot of junk food, a ton of dips, chips, fries, and cheeses, and a bucket of Coke. Number 8. A man named David Matthews spent 17 years on death row in Oklahoma and tried to see before he was given a lethal injection, he joked, I think the governor's phone broke. He hasn't called me. Around 90% of people on death row did not afford their own lawyer, so had to be given a free one by the state. Number 6. Legal experts and statisticians who did some investigating believe that from 1976 to 2004, 4.1% of those who were given the penalty were actually innocent. That is 340 prisoners they believe were innocent or are innocent. The writers of the report said there is little doubt that innocent men have been executed. If you watch true crime shows, you'll know why so many people might have died innocent men. It's usually shoddy police work and lack of evidence. That and the fact some evidence that supports the innocent is behind bars. One of the guys went in age 8 saying they were with the guys when the murder was committed. This is why money matters. This wouldn't have happened if they'd had a good lawyer. Number 4. There have been 167 exonerations of prisoners on death row in the U.S. since 1973. DNA testing helped get some of the men off of death row when that started being used, while some people convicted from hair tests have been given new trials since hair comparisons
You've been a good friend to me. That means something.
Were not reliable. Number 3. In 2019, there were another 2 death row exonerations.
Sure.
One was
Feel
Paul
free to
Frank.
hand me all
He
the gold
served
you
33
want.
years on death row in Nevada's Eli State Prison. His case went back to court, and that court said there had been disturbing prosecutorial misconduct and woefully inadequate assistance
firewood,
to counsel
blood,
during
please.
the guy's first trial for murder.
Let's
After
go.
33 years, he walked free, and he told the press, "I just want to find a little bit of peace after coming
Don't
through
conserve
all
your
this
prey?
madness." Huh,
That's my
33
prey.
years of madness is a lot to take in. Charles Ray Finch was also exonerated from death row that year, and was pushed out of prison he spent 43 years on death row as an innocent man.
No
The U.S. Court of
bitch.
Appeals for the Fourth Circuit said the evidence against him was woeful, and police had apparently pressured people to testify against him. They also created a very sketchy lineup not remotely related to anything you could call justice. Official misconduct and getting people to tell lies in court, or people lying on their own behalf, is a reason for a lot of exonerations. Number 2. Okay, so what about an innocent man who did get executed? This story is nothing short of insane. In 1976, 2 police officers were shot when checking on a parked car. Inside was a driver and a man named Jesse DeFaro. His wife and children were sleeping in the back seat. DeFaro was sentenced to death, as was his wife. The kids went on to live with the wife's parents, but both were placed into care when those grandparents died in a plane crash. DeFaro was executed in the electric chair in 1990. Old Sparky didn't work well, though, and it took 7 minutes for the man to die. Prior to that, his head set on fire, and it wasn't a good scene. The driver did the shooting and even admitted to it. The evidence pointed to the driver doing it too. DeFaro's wife was at least later released, but only after she'd served 16 years as an innocent woman. She actually ended up marrying a guy who'd also been exonerated after being convicted of murder. Number 1. Most states have compensation measures when people are wrongfully convicted and exonerated, but not all states. 33 states right now have compensation laws for exonerees from normal prison or death row.
They should become billionaires.
In fact, they differ. In Louisiana, a person should get $250,000, but that must be paid out over a period of 10 years. In California,
$250,000, is that it?
$250,000 per day for every day wrongfully served. So for 43 years, you get over $2 million.
Ah, okay, that's not too bad.
$5,000 per year wrongly in prison, and this is about as good as a kick in the face. It also caps the amount at $25,000. Texas is pretty good. It gives $80,000 per wrongfully imprisoned year. It also helps with other matters such as child support and people back on your feet and fitting into society. A civil rights violation lawsuit can also be filed, especially if there was official misconduct by the state, and that might add up.
How are they coming through that way? Okay, whatever.
Then you have states such as Iowa and Oklahoma, where if you pled guilty, you'll get nothing. Yet an innocent man on death row has pled guilty before in normal prison. In Florida, you won't be compensated one dime if you had any other crime on your record. It also can take years to get any compensation. One guy who did 20 years as an innocent man got a check for $25,000, but that was 4.5 years after his release. Some guys in some states end up with nothing but a goodbye, sorry we messed up. It all depends on the case and the state. A man in California spent 39 years behind bars for a crime he didn't commit, and he sued the authorities. He got $21 million. He also got $1.95 million for the $140 a day the state awards those who have been wrongfully incarcerated. Now, you have to watch 50 insane Cold War facts that will shock you. Or you could also watch this.
This was facts about sleep. Sleep is the cousin of death, so you know, let's find out about sleep.
We all do it. Some of us do it more than others, and most of us cherish it. During those heavenly hours when we go into sleep, some weird and wonderful things happen. Sleep is the final where dreams burst into life, but also a place where strange and sometimes dangerous things happen. As you'll find out today, there's a lot more to sleeping than you think, and it's really only the last few decades that we've begun to understand the importance of having a good slumber. Without further ado, welcome to the Sleep Zone. Number 50. If you go without sleep, it's called sleep deprivation, and you can start to feel cranky and anxious if you go just 24 hours without a dose. Go 48 hours and you become very fatigued. At this point, you might have something called hydration.
Never should have come here.
Dropping out Number 49. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 1 in 3 Americans don't get enough sleep. Scientists believe most humans need at least 7 hours of sleep, but many people don't get nearly that much. Number 48. In 1987, a man named Kenneth Parks got in his car and drove around 12 miles to his mother-in-law's. He then entered the house and bludgeoned his mother-in-law to death with a tire iron. After that, he tried to strangle his father-in-law, but he didn't succeed in killing him. Covered in blood, Parks drove to the police station and told the cops he might have just killed him. He didn't go to prison for his crime, since it was believed he had committed the act while sleepwalking. Number 47.
What the fuck?
A 14-year-old girl in England went for a walk while she was sleepwalking. She actually managed to climb a 130-foot crane. There she remained until a firefighter climbed up the crane and rescued her. The girl was still sleeping when he got to the floor. Having gone to sleep in her bed and woken up at the top of a crane. Just imagine if that happened to you.
Wow, that'd be madness.
Lots of studies have been done so we can better understand dreams. One strange thing about dreams is the fact that something like 12% of people report that they only dream in black and white. Why? We don't exactly know. We know a lot more Americans in the past dream in black and white. The main reason for that is the TV was black and white. Number 45.
Not sure about that.
According to the National Sleep Foundation,
But maybe.
1 in 4 married couples in the USA actually share the same bed. Separation isn't always because the couple has fallen out of love or they argue too much. It's more likely to be because they disturb each other's sleep patterns. Number 44. Some people can't just seem to get out of bed in the morning. Spread of the virus.
Make sure I see my friends and family safe again.
My name is Kyle. Just listen. There are a number of reasons that this can happen, and it could simply be that the person is not getting enough quality sleep. It might also be related to anxiety or depression. Disturb each other's sleep patterns. Number 44. Some people can't just seem to get out of bed in the morning. Some struggle, but others really feel like they just can't make a move. There's a term for this, and it's called dysania. There are a number of reasons that this can happen, and it can simply be that the person is not getting enough quality sleep. It might also be related to anxiety or depression. It's not a medical condition per se, but some people can have chronic dysomnia, and some sufferers have been known to stay in bed for days on end. Number 43. Some people are born blind, so you might wonder what they dream about since they have not visualized the world. Well, blind people's dreams tend to be more about the other senses, such as taste and smell and sound. But there is evidence that some blind people can have visual dreams too. Studies have also found that people who are born blind tend to have more nightmares than people who can see. These might be related to the sense of falling or getting lost. Number 42. Some people claim to never dream at all, but that's because they rarely evaluate the REM portion of sleep. This is when the brain is most actively dreaming, and self-professed non-dreamers who were woken up during REM sleep admitted they had been dreaming. Number 41. Do dogs dream? They do, since scientists have looked at dogs. Some of those scientists said the average size of sleep. At this point, you should be able to see rapid eye movement of the dog. So you might not know, do dogs sleep while they sleep? The answer, it seems, is no. All the
fuck?
Maybe, but some people hopefully say in real life. Simply put, this is hogwash. Many people have reported dying in a dream. Are more likely to later develop diseases such as cardiovascular and gastrointestinal diseases. Number 37. Around 90 million Americans snore, and 37 million of those folks do it on a regular basis. Number 36. Some people claim they don't sleep much at all, and some of them are pretty well known. Donald Trump wrote in his book, Think Like a Billionaire, doesn't sleep any more than I have to. I usually sleep about 4 hours per night. Well, at least he paid someone to write that in his book for him. Other reports state he sleeps about 6 hours a night, which would be the same with Elon Musk. In fact, we found lots of reports stating that many CEOs and famous people only sleep between 4 and 6 hours a night. Now, let's get strange again. The best is yet.
And I should have come.
Are you one of the many people concerned about the climate? At Ecology, we make climate action simple and affordable for you, your business, and your family. How? By offering a subscription service that helps you help the planet in 3 ways. First, we can
Oh, okay.
lots of choice every month. Second, we fund climate solutions that completely remove the carbon footprint, and then some. Third, by encouraging collective action, because together we can help save the planet. That means with minimal effort you can give more back to the planet. What's more, we invest funds in the highest standard climate projects, as well as protecting the Amazon rainforest. Our recent work includes providing fuel-efficient cooking codes. Now the best part. We do all this for around the cost of coffee and you can see us finally, you can see your impact come to life. Watch your forest grow every month and set low carbon goals, knowing you're making a difference. Because when we all make small contributions as individuals, we make massive global changes together. To find out more, explore the Ecology website, or if you're ready to do your bit now, visit ecology.com.
Two paths, two branching paths.
There's a guy who's been taking his sleep since he was 4, and as an adult he carried on to it. He's been dubbed the sleepwalking artist and has made a lot of cash from selling artwork. He goes to bed, and when he wakes up, there's sometimes a drawing or a painting in front of him. He said he drawn a really good picture of Marilyn Monroe. The thing was, in his waking life, he had no talent whatsoever for drawing. Some of his paintings have been sold for $60,000. About one of them. He's made a lot of cash and kind of put no effort. Admin skills have baffled scientists, and no one really knows how he manages to create works while he sleeps. Some people have said he's a fraud, although experts at the Edinburgh Sleep Clinic have witnessed him sleepwalking and they said he's the real deal. Number 34. Most people tend to fall asleep after around 7 to 15 minutes of trying, although anyone who has suffered from insomnia or stress will tell you that it might take them hours to find slumberland. Number 33. On the other hand, if you're the kind of person who falls asleep as soon as your head hits the pillow, it's likely you were sleep deprived. Number 32. You can find recent articles in the media that tell you that around 9 million people in the U.S. take a sleep medication. Although the data cited is CDC research, it's now a decade old. Still, there are more stories about Americans' problems of falling asleep. It does indeed seem that millions of adults are taking the medication for sleep or medication to reduce stress and anxiety. The downside to this are some side effects and also the with some medications, there's something called the rebound effect. So if the person tries to quit, they might experience even worse anxiety, stress, or insomnia. Number 31. The younger you are, the more you sleep. Babies usually sleep 14 to 17 hours a day, and they usually don't have a problem dozing off. 14 to 17-year-olds usually sleep anywhere from 9 to 11 hours a day. According to Johns Hopkins Small Children's Hospital, it's important that younger folks get this extra sleep compared to adults who get 5 to 7 hours. Parents shouldn't nag if their teenager likes to spend, say, 10 hours of sleep. Still, according to the CDC, high school students aren't getting enough sleep, especially on school nights. Number 30. 20% of American adults will sleep before bedtime. If you've ever done that, you'll know it can help you fall asleep. But is it good for you?
Oh!
You might also wake up in the middle of the night and not be able to get back to sleep again. A bucket of beer might also lead to many trips to the bathroom throughout the night. And as some of you know, drunk sleepers tend to snore. That's because the booze has relaxed their throat muscles, and also because drunk sleepers tend to sleep on their backs. It's a very modern parasum. Now you know to say, I love this serious sleep. Now for something really wild.
This guy is my favorite story, but when I met him, now I don't mean.
Bruh. Fuck you. I don't want this video. Oh, I'm gonna get with this guy and do a fucking Nexus mods, what? Come on man, I wanna learn more stuff. Right. There we go.
A few of you guys watching this video have woken up in the middle of the night with a raging hunger. You've gone down to the kitchen, raised the fridge, and left a trail of destruction behind you. But how many of you have done that? You might have experienced something called nocturnal eating, but as a sleep-related eating disorder. Its full name is nocturnal sleep-related eating disorder. People who have suffered from this have sometimes raided the kitchen several times in just one night, but they didn't remember a thing the next day. It sounds funny, but NES can be dangerous as eating while asleep can show people having an accident. In extreme cases, people might have been known to put on lots of weight, while some people have fired up the stove and made complex meat. Others have eaten things such as stone sandwiches, raw meat, frozen food, and, would you believe it, buttered cigarettes. Yikes. Number 27. Arguably better than that is something called exploding head syndrome. These people might be on the cusp of sleep when suddenly they hear a loud explosion, or hear the sound of bullets or great flashes of thunder. It freaks them out, to say the least, especially if the noise is accompanied by flashes of light. The good news is it's not dangerous.
Don't
Need
again.
Bitch.
Someone nodded off behind the wheel or was very close to it. The statistics differ depending on what source you're reading, but everyone agrees that driving while very fatigued is a bad idea. In one poll, 37% of people admitted they had fallen asleep while driving at least once in their life. Number 25 is acting.
Fuck that.
NASA wanted to know this because they wanted to the agency concluded that the ideal nap should be 26 minutes. It can improve alertness and reduce stress. With this in mind, if you ever find yourself in a position where you have to drive a long distance or you have to do something that's very important, if you feel tired, you should find a suitable place to take a nap. This might improve your performance and keep you concentrated. Number 24. According to some studies, it's a myth that you can catch up on sleep. Some people might think, if I sleep only a few hours on Monday and Tuesday, Harvard Medical School says this is not the case. Its study reveals that people who often have nights of little sleep will always suffer in the end. Number 23. Exercise helps you fall asleep.
Is there
easier and
something
also
I can do for you?
better.
Fuck
Never
you.
That's all.
No more I yield.
People suffering from insomnia.
Fuck you, vampire
They sleep
bitch.
better and were less anxious in general. The thing was, though, the good sleep didn't come immediately. Participants had to put some effort in. Number 22. Almost half of Americans sleep rolled up in the fetal position, so it seems we have a fondness for how we kicked it back in our mother's womb. Back sleeping is the second most common, and after that, stomach sleeping. Then there are people that combine different sleeping positions. Some research tells us that sleeping on your back is the best position to promote good health, although it might depend on if you have certain health issues. Number 21. We generally dream 4 to 6 times throughout the night, and as you'll soon find out, this can be a problem. Number 20. Some of you will know that one of the scariest things that can happen to you during sleep is dreaming that you're awake. Such a false awakening might mean you get up, go downstairs, have a drink of orange juice, then suddenly realize something isn't right. Then you might wake up for real, often with your heart pounding.
What's up,
Even
bruh?
the fact that some people have woken up with a shock and then seen someone standing over them. This is
It's
a dream within a dream again, and the person might wake up for real. These are called multiple false awakenings, which has been described as a Russian doll of dreaming. That's scary. Number 19. Some people can dream, and while they don't wake up, they're aware they're dreaming. These are called lucid dreams. You might even be able to give yourself superpowers in these dreams, such as the guy who says when he's being chased in the nightmare, sometimes he just has to decide to run backwards and he shoots off like a rocket. So why do we lucid dream? It's likely because a part of the brain called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is partly switched on during sleep when it usually isn't. This is the part of the brain that deals with planning, reasoning, working memory, and thinking about multiple concepts. In a lucid dream, the person then becomes conscious enough to know they're dreaming, but not conscious enough that they wake up. That's one theory anyway. Number 18. So which country's citizens get the best sleep? We found some data, and it seems that folks from New Zealand on average sleep the most hours. The Netherlands, Finland, Britain, and Australia weren't far behind, and the U.S. was somewhere in the middle. The worst sleeping nation was Japan, followed by South Korea, and then Saudi Arabia. Number 17. According to the National Sleep Foundation, only 8% of Americans sleep totally naked, while a whopping 1/3 of British folks sleep in the bus. Number 16. There's no proof that eating cheese can give you nightmares, but if you do go to bed...
And it seems like vampires have a bit of a heart.
It can make you restless as your body digests the food and therefore wake up. Pick up more during REM sleep. Number 15. Around 1.4% of people sleep with their eyes open, a condition known as nocturnal lagophthalmos. It simply means they cannot close their eyelids during sleep, with some folks sleeping with their eyes fully open and others just partially open. They have no idea they're doing it since they're asleep, but it looks pretty freaky to other people. There are other reasons why someone might sleep with their eyes open, relating mostly to disease, trauma, and autoimmune conditions. Number 14. In 2010, a man named Gregory Macon said he was kicked off a U.S. Airways flight because he was caught sleeping with his eyes open. He'd fallen asleep before the plane had even taken off. But when one of the cabin crew saw him sleeping with his eyes open, she thought he was ill and asked if anyone on board could help. There was actually a nurse on the plane, and she had no idea why someone would sleep with their eyes open. She had not heard of nocturnal lagophthalmos, and while Macon explained that he'd often slept this way, in the end, the crew decided he wasn't fit to fly. He wasn't very happy about this at all. Okay, coming up to the top 13.
Don't fall asleep before work, bruh. Well,
Number 13.
in that way, bruh, it's not good.
While you're sleeping. Number 12. Studies have shown that people have a worse night's sleep when they control the room. Why that happens is confusing, but their obvious answer might be because of the light.
What did he say? They're better than us down is. Oh, wow.
During a full moon, subjects were literally kept in the dark. They were figuratively kept in the dark too, since they had no idea what the experiment was about. The scientists found that when the moon was full, on average, people spent 30% less time in deep sleep and slept less time overall. It also took them longer to fall asleep. Some scientists believe that humans are naturally attuned to the moon's cycle.
Don't speak to
why
me.
its fullness affects our sleep.
Shut your ass up, please.
One study showed humans slept longer during a full moon. It also revealed so that people could get to the factory on time.
I need to fucking...
During the frenzy, the dreamer might also hurt themselves. This is how one woman described how her husband would sometimes act during sleep. He seemed to have the strength of 10 men and shoot straight up from the bed onto his feet in one motion. He's landed clear across the room on many occasions and has pulled down curtains, upset lamps, and so forth. He's grabbed me and pulled on me, hurting my arms. recommendation. You should wash that pillow of yours at least once every 6 months, and you should replace it after a year. Result in 400 to 750 hours of lost sleep per parent. Number 7. Major global events can be many different kinds of bad nights. A big event might have the effect for during the coronavirus pandemic. Other major sleep disturbers have been 9/11, the Challenger space shuttle disaster, and the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. While it's good to know about current events, it's too much. Sometimes the hormone corticosteroids negatively impact the effect of the immune system. A previous cycle that can happen when the person is stressed. The next day, it's lack of sleep means that they deal with stress worse. They might then sit in front of the TV to watch news media that sounds apocalyptic, then creates more stress, which creates sleeplessness, and they repeat physical patterns. Number 5. Some people dread going to bed and falling asleep. A condition called somnambulism. One sufferer in the UK explained it like this: I'd stay up listening to my mom snoring just to make sure she was alive. I was petrified that if I slept, something bad might happen, and I wouldn't be awake to help. Some of these people might fear the loss of control they have during sleep, or they might worry about what could happen while they're unconscious. Some sufferers have said the fear comes from having had night terrors or bouts of sleepwalking, while for others a traumatic event in the past has caused the dread of the bed. Okay, we're getting to the end now, but there's still...
Oh, I was there earlier. Okay, this explains so much.
Although by the time it gets reached the use of about 50% better. One study found that sweat the bed. Okay, so why did some folks sweat the bed in the first place? It could be a number of things, such as the child having smaller than average bladder, or the fact that both his parents were bedwetters. It might also be the fact that they have lower than average levels of hormone vasopressin, or simply the fact that they're sleeping. Stress and infections can also be a reason. Number 3.
You, my friend, need
experts, counting sheep as a strategy to fall asleep is useless. Number 2. Some studies have shown that if you regularly sleep well, you might feel the pain better.
Got something to say?
And it's very monstrous.
Later tested to see how they dealt with pain.
Got something to say?
Seem to feel less. So much so, it's as if they have taken codeine. Number 1. I'll tell you about the horror of something called fatal insomnia. This is a rare disease, thank God, which affects the brain. It happens because of a tiny genetic mutation.
Oh shit. Okay.
Because I want to do my best in helping control the spread of the virus.
Somehow. Oh, it wasn't soul traps anymore.
Well, at this point in time, no one can definitively say what happens to your consciousness or spirit after you die. However, doctors such as Van Parnia at NYU Langone Health have discovered evidence that after the body dies, your consciousness may continue on. Is this proof there is an afterlife? Can science provide evidence for the existence of consciousness after the body shuts down? Criteria. Death occurs in this way because the heart stops pumping oxygen-rich blood and nutrients around the body, which causes all organs and tissues to shut down. Advances in medical. You still have 5 to 10 minutes before your brain cells die. Your brain damage becomes irreversible.
Actually,
Research suggests that 5 to 10 minutes worth of brain activity after the heart stops beating is incorrect. Instead, a person may have hours.
yep,
Even
they
days
do have hours.
after their
They
heart
do have hours.
This is true, then what's happening in your brain when you're clinically declared dead? What is your
You can come back after hours of being dead through heart failure. Actually happens to football
I'll never
fan.
tell you anything, vampire. I overstand up. Stronger than any suffering you can inflict on me.
I believe you, Richard. And I don't even know what you found here. So go and meet your beloved Stendhal.
Are you sure that was wise, Lokio? He still might have told us something. We haven't gotten anywhere ourselves with
Nothing. He served his purpose by leading us to this place. Now it is up to us to bring Harkon our prize. And we will not return without it. Vingalmo, that's wow.
Yes, of course, Lokio. Do not forget who brought you news of the Vigilant.
Never forget who my friends are. Or my enemies.
Okay. This is dope. I can complete the companion's quest, or not companions, I mean this quest line, without having to kill these vampires. I can let them live.
It is undeniably a product of the brain, but we are not entirely sure where your consciousness is manifested and kept within your nervous system. Is it in the muscle tissue, the synapses, or is it the energy flowing between the nerves that gives us consciousness? Because of countless research studies, we know that when we have a thought, parts of our brain send chemical and electrical signals through the nerve zone. Since thoughts and consciousness are closely related, our essence may be contained within the cells and chemicals in the brain. This means your sense of self and what makes you could just be bundles of proteins and organic compounds.
That's just on the physical level.
When the brain shuts down and the cells start to die, does our consciousness go with it? That's the question Dr. Sanparnia and others are trying to figure out. Can one brain cell hold your consciousness, or do you need millions of brain cells to create who you are? Part of the that millions of cells are necessary for your consciousness to exist. It's difficult to quantify, but your consciousness may be contained in every one of your trillions of cells. Thanks every time.
Asked what by many pet insurance, you know that loving your pet can sometimes be a little more complicated than you imagine.
Every time you use a brain cell, you may be losing a part of yourself.
Dim Hollow. Oh, okay.
If your brain hurts from thinking about what gives you consciousness, stay with me for just a little while longer. Regardless of what part of your brain gives you emotion, personality, and your essence, none of that matters when all of yourself die. So what happens to you after the heart stops beating and your consciousness moves on? Is there an afterlife? Studies have shown that after someone is dead, their consciousness from
A vampire thrall, okay. It's on Dim Hollow Crypt X from 3 as written by Alndvold. Okay. Let's see what the internet has to say. Let's Google it. Dim Hollow Crypt Volume 3. Volume 3. I don't know what volume 1 is. Maybe there's volume 1 somewhere. There we go. Despite being named the third volume of Dim Hollow Crypts, the first two volumes are not found in game. There should be a mod that adds them in game because that's kind of stupid, but whatever.
Notes on Dim Hollow Crypt Volume 3 is written by Adalval. Divines be praised. Here at last is the breakthrough I have been seeking. All the dangers I have escaped, the traps I have eluded and the foul draugr I have avoided have brought me at last to this. In my previous volume of notes and observations regarding Dim Hollow Crypt's possible connections to the ancient vampire clans of Skyrim's history, I wrote of a great chamber, far larger than anything else I've yet seen here in the crypt. Alice, a few wandering draugr forced me to retreat to the earlier passages of the crypt, thus depriving me of an opportunity to study this huge cavern. Well, praise be to Stender, for as I write this, I have just spent nearly a full day exploring that very cavern. It was a risk that proved more than worth it, because what I found in that chamber nearly defies description. Central to this huge cavern is an island of stone in a subterranean lake. Upon this island is something I can only describe as an elaborate ceremonial construction surrounded by stone columns linked by arches. There is no mistaking the stark contrast in architecture here. No ancient Nords made this stone or here, too, were more of the gargoyle statues that I first glimpsed in earlier passageways. There is no draugr burial site in Skyrim that contains these statues, save Dim Hollow Crypt. Indeed, I am now certain that the strange construct in this main chamber was built long after the crypt, and by wholly different masters. These must be the same builders who placed the gargoyles through the crypt, perhaps to frighten away the curious. All signs seem to indicate that the masons who crafted these strange arches were servants of some ancient master who favored necromancy or vampirism. The style and craftsmanship in the stonework are not only distinct in terms of design, seeming to speak of an entirely different culture than that of the old Nord peoples, but also in skill with which they were fashioned. The cutting and shaping of the stone, for example, suggests more sophisticated tools than the crypt's original architects would have possessed. Although I feel a sense of exhilaration that my theories have at last been confirmed beyond any shadow of a doubt, I am also disappointed at the lack of answers. How long ago were these new features added to the crypt? And by whom? And for what purpose? On one point, I have no doubts. I must return to the Hall of the Vigilant and share these findings with my brothers and sisters. When they see what I've discovered with their own eyes, they will no longer scoff at my theories or mock my endeavors. And when that is done, I will return to my work. For now, Dim Hollow Crypt might be a mystery, but by Stender I will see that mystery solved.
Good shit. Alright.
Time to end this little game.
Wait, what? I was gonna say. Let's see.
I feel like I could crush a giant's head like a wall.
Don't speak to me, Mage.
I don't converse with my prey.
Low key, I want to find out what happens if I bring. I won't budge you really.
They say ruins like these are filled with treasure. Of course, they're filled with traps too.
I think she would fight these people. Oh shit. That's pretty cool. 2 points of magic resistance, 1 damage resistance, 25 points. Magic curve.
I don't converse with my prey.
Okay.
I'm not making dinner. Fight is mine.
Right into your arms, you say? Good shit. I could give her the dagger. Looks like it's taken part of my life force or some shit. Oh, hungry. My character's hungry. This is kind of dope.
Some of these artifacts would fetch a good price. I hope they're not cursed.
she a dark elf? Activate stone monolith. Oh snap. Speak to the mysterious woman. Yo.
Who sent you here?
Oh, who were you expecting? A man in Isran. That's Nicholson. Who were you expecting?
I was expecting someone like me, at least.
What do you mean like you?
Can't you tell just from looking at me? A vampire.
Oh shit, the Dawn God would want me to kill you. Why were you locked away like this? There you go, why were you locked away like this?
That's complicated. And I'm not totally sure if I can trust you. But if you want to know the whole story, help me get back to my family's home.
Oh, where do you need to go? Where do you need to go?
My family used to live on an island to the west of Solitude. I would guess they still do. By the way, my name is Serana. Good to meet you.
Any idea how we get out of here? Is that another scroll? How long were you in there? How long were you in there?
Good question. Hard to say. I can't really tell. I feel like it was a long time. Who is Skyrim's High King?
That's actually a matter for debate. Elsif of Solitude will be High Queen.
I don't know that name. You say she's Jarl of Solitude? Who supports her?
The Empire supports Olsif, but there are many in Skyrim lore to Ulfric.
Empire? What Empire?
Bruh, the Empire from Cyrodiil.
Cyrodiil is the seat of an empire? I must have been gone longer than I thought. Definitely longer than we planned. Please, let's hurry. I need to get home so I can figure out what's happened.
Damn. She must be old. Any idea of how to get out of here? Why were you locked away?
I'd rather not get into that with you. If that's alright. I'm sorry, it's not that... It's just that I don't know who I can trust yet. Let's get to my home, and I'll have a better sense of where we all stand.
Any idea how we... Alright, tell me about your home.
It's on an island near Solitude. Hopefully we can find a boat to take us there. It's my family home. Not the most welcoming place, but depending on who's around, I'll be safe there.
Why wouldn't you be safe there? Someone you don't want to see? Yeah, why wouldn't you be safe there?
Let's just say that my mother and father had a bit of a falling out. Don't worry, I'm not in any danger or anything like that. It'll just be more unpleasant to run into my father.
Any idea how to get out of there?
Your guess is as good as mine. This place looks pretty different from when I was locked away.
I need to fucking sleep. That's what I need to do.
Yes?
What? Is that an Elder Scroll?
Yes, it is. And it's mine.
Fair enough. What do you have an Elder Scroll? Is it fragile? Do we need to be careful with it? Oh, yeah. Is it fragile? Do we need to be careful with it?
Nothing can destroy an Elder Scroll. Worry more about protecting your hide and let me worry about my things.
Alright, I'd like to trade something.
Not going to happen.
Oh my god, no, I need to trade some things with you. I need to trade some things.
What now?
I need to
Hands to yourself.
Oh my god, I need to trade some things. God damn it, Serana. Alright, this is gonna be quite the battle. Illusion. I'm gonna summon a zombie. Oh, he spawns another weapon. Good shit. I really want to trade some things with Serrano, man.
It's not too far now. At least, I don't think it is. I thought you knew the way. Not going to happen.
Oh my god, Serrano. Come on. Okay. Suit yourself. How to trade with Serrano in Skyrim.
Here are some matching videos.
Wait, what? Oh. There's a skeleton that she brought back. Yeah, she can resurrect stuff. Forgot about that, she's a necromancer.
I could have sworn I heard something right behind us.
Nah, it's... It won't budge. So she was just asleep inside of here. Wow.
This feels like the right way. I'm starting to worry.
We're exploring.
Does the air feel heavy down here? I'm a little woozy, but it might just be from waking up.
I really want to give us some items, but
Aren't we there yet? Hands to yourself.
I want to trade some things with you, bitch. I'm gonna have to put some items inside of a chest. Right, so I can put sparks in there, so she can have that. Oh, what else? Oh, I don't think she can block. Ah, yeah, magical regenerates faster. Stuff I don't mind becoming stolen.
What is it?
There we go, so she'll listen to me when I tell her to go pick something up, but she's not willing to trade with me.
Finished? What is it? Got it. Nothing else?
Yep, nothing else.
Oh, what is it? I think I'll hang on to my things, thank you.
I really want to trade with her, man. Okay. I think we're headed the right way.
I can hardly wait.
I got 6 gold. Don't I have a saw?
Until
There's a destruction. There's a destruction and alteration. Yeah, I'm gonna drop those master robes. Okay. We've got no lesser soul gems and 4 petty soul gems. Let's see the reload. I'm gonna quick load that save.
It'll be good to get outside and breathe again. I haven't missed the sunlight, but I do miss fresh air. Do you need something?
Alright. Alright, cool.
Shouldn't we keep moving? I disagree.
Now she let me trade.
And go where? You can't just leave me alone whenever you feel like it. I'm coming with you. Why don't you keep your things and I'll...
Yeah, I'm reloading. Save. Eating enough will supply the well-fed bonus. Necromantic healing. It's a new spell. I think I'll need it.
Shouldn't we keep moving? I really want to get back home.
Oh shit, okay, let's...
Who's there?
Okay. Good stuff. They're playing every music again. Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna have to reload the save because it's feeling fucking weird. Come on, Skyrim, why are you doing this? Maybe I can go to the level up menu and it will stop doing. So the enemy wasn't even alive anymore, they were dead. I was doing that bullshit. Oh yeah, there was items behind. Ancient supple bow. Sorry about that, Serana.
What is it?
So I can't trust these. Wait, what does turn undead do? Oh, it makes them flee. I thought it would make them fight for you. Now let's see if the game. Skyrim mod that lets undead fight for you. That lets undead fight for you. Lead Serana to her home. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 enemies. Not a great plan. Oh, it's like an armored skeleton. That's dope. Skyrim summon skeleton spell. Is there such a spell? No, don't look like it. Those skeletons look kind of dope, not gonna lie. It's like a cross between a Drago and a...
Who's there?